Welcome to the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening, with your hosts Fran Cadrone and Marina Theron-Monnery. For more information about Fran and Marina, or to apply to be a guest on the show, please go to our website www.hopenning.com. The Hopenning is for informal purposes only and is based on the research of your hosts, Fran and Marina. They, as well as their guests, are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from this podcast, which is not intended to replace any professional medical advice or care by medical professionals you are currently utilizing.
Welcome, everyone. This is Hopenning episode 84. And we are here today with Marina, my special co-host, and a wonderful guest, Patti Mastro. Patti Mastro. And she comes to us from Fresno, California today with a wonderful story of how she turned childhood abuse and hardship into helping people and what she does today. Patti is a massage therapist that found that when she was doing massage on her clients, that she would get readings about her clients. And over the course of time, it became so that her clients came to her more for the reading than for the massage, which is astounding in itself. She now is a Reiki master and is delighted to be able to give back to the community in whatever way she can, in giving service and in being in service to God. So welcome, Patti. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. So I'll start with my early childhood. And
I was just going to ask about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll start with my early childhood. As a child, I experienced trauma, a variety of forms of abuse. And I found solace in the church that I went to, and I fell in love with Jesus. Jesus was my savior, and Jesus was the protector. And even though I was still being abused, I felt like he was my comfort as well. And so I was Catholic, and so every day you could go to church. And I think everyone thought I was going to become a nun because I went to churches so often and went to the Catholic school there. And in the Catholic school, if you went to communion, at church, you could eat your breakfast in class. And so there were only a couple of us that would eat breakfast in class. And I was in, I think, first grade or second grade there. And whatever grade you are when you're 8, because you can't take Holy Communion until you're around 7 to 8 years old. So I would go to church every day. And one day I was walking home. I was by myself. And I was walking home, and I had this beautiful spiritual experience. I was lifted up into this light, and I felt enveloped within and infused by this incredible love. I felt completely accepted unconditionally and loved for just who I am. And that, that experience changed the course of my life. I was only 8 years old, but I knew something that I didn't know before, and that this God loved me. And I was able to then I went home and I talked to my mom. She was a mystical kind of Catholic, so she believed me. We talked about it, and she was very supportive of me. And then what happened was I noticed that I would get things, which now we call it preconception or precognition. And I would get things before they happened. So my mom was like, oh, what's with this? And so I would get these things before they happened, and she started noticing and she started listening to me. I would also get impressions about things that I didn't understand, but I would speak them out, And I would tell my mother, this is what I'm being impressed with. I didn't use the word impression, of course, at that age, but this is what's happening to me, and I'm getting this. And she said to me later in life, she says, you know, I didn't know what to do with that because those words were so wise. There was so much wisdom in those words that I began to take it seriously. So, of course, I grew up. I got married and I had children. I ended up in a very dysfunctional and abusive marriage. And in that marriage, I learned a lot about how demeaned I was by the other person, and how it felt to be demeaned by another person, how it felt to feel worthless unless you did what they wanted you to do. You were demeaned. I was demeaned. I felt worthless. I felt like nothing was going to be able to go right. And I found another church, and that helped me a lot through that. But there came a point, even the pastor said, well, you're not really supposed to leave the person. You just have to seek counseling. But he wouldn't do that. So I finally left him, got a divorce. It was the best thing that ever happened to me as an adult. Well, it wasn't the best thing, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me as an adult. And so I went on with my life. I went to work for a while. I went to college, and I had forgotten to tell you this. I became a medical records technician. So I was caught up in this medical records technology, and it was very boring, and I hated it. And I didn't know why I hated it, but I knew that I had to do something different. And so I went to massage school. So while I was in massage school, I realized that people is my thing. It's about people. It's about connecting with people. It's about recognizing the importance and the value of people. And that I saw so many people, not only in massage school, but this recognition was happening inside me that all these people are walking around and they're depressed or they're sad. And people would come to me. This is while I was still going to massage school, and right afterwards, people would just naturally come to me, and they said, you share so much love just by being you. I feel loved. And so when I became a massage therapist and I got my own studio, and then I became a Reiki master and began to do energy work, I started working on clients. So I loved the massage, even though it did get to my hands after a while. So I loved the massage. I loved doing the energy work. I do energy work before and after the massage. But during the massage, I mean, this is a fantastic and unusual journey. Before the massage, to me it is, before the massage, I would be giving the Reiki to the person, and they'd be all relaxed on my table, and I'd start getting impressions about them. So I was getting these impressions about them, and I didn't know what to do because I thought, oh gosh, should I ask permission? Should I mention it? Should I just keep it to myself? So I got the courage up to ask permission one day with one woman, and she goes, oh, I want to know everything you got. And so I started sharing with her the impressions that I had received, and she cried. She started crying. I almost started crying because I thought, wow, what just happened? This beautiful miracle of something that gave her something that helped her to understand herself better. And so that continued. I continued to get impressions while I was giving massages and giving Reiki, and more people would listen to me when I would share with them that I wanted to share impressions I was getting, if it was okay with them. And yes, pretty soon people were coming to me for readings, and I was thinking, well, what's a reading? I wasn't sure what to do about a reading. And so I actually bought a crystal ball. And I thought, well, I have to look like I'm somebody that does readings, right? And so I bought this clear crystal ball, and I set it in front of me, and I began to realize it wasn't the crystal ball, but it gave me something between me and the other person so that I could share with them, but feel like I still had my own sacred space. I needed to feel that sense of my sacred space, and that I wasn't giving all my energy away to them, and I needed to learn to hold my energy in a sacred way while sharing with other people the impressions that I was getting. And my impressions turned out to be pretty accurate. And pretty soon I was doing, as you were saying earlier, more readings than massages. I did calm down on the massages because it did affect my body, but the readings were taking off. And so it was exciting because it was a new path for me. And I can relate it, I can connect it with when I was a child and I had that experience and I'm in the light and realized that gifts were given to me. And those gifts that were given to me were incredible gifts, and I wanted to honor them. I wanted to honor those gifts. And so in time, I took workshops and I went to classes that were on spiritual development, intuitive development, and things like that. And before long, I was being asked if I could give classes on that. And so I began to give classes on that as well, and found that people like to come to my classes. And I facilitated some retreats when I lived in Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for a few years, and I facilitated some retreats that were like 2-day retreats, and it was wonderful. We ended up laying down in a circle, and I would be giving meditation, which I didn't know how to do before, but I taught myself medication. It was medication. Yeah. The meditation, medi is actually the same word. It's Latin for medicate. And so meditate is medication, you know? So I had taught myself guided meditation for quite a while to actually stay sane when my kids were teenagers. And of course that helped me a lot. So I'm facilitating retreats and I'm teaching classes, and everything just kept developing, and I felt so privileged to even have these opportunities, because so many people, and especially women, men too, but especially women in our culture, so many women live a life where they don't feel they have any worth. They feel like, they don't feel accepted. They don't necessarily feel valued, or that they belong, or that they fit in. And they're wandering around trying to hook into a group or hook into somebody that will make them feel like they fit in, like they belong. We all want to belong. Everybody wants to feel like they belong to somebody or something that's greater than them. And just on a pure human level, we just want to feel like we're loved. We just want to feel like we're loved.
How profound, Patti. That's absolutely amazing. I'm fascinated by this. And especially, you obviously were given a gift in quite a mystical way. And so now people come to you, and most of them probably did not have that mystical experience. So how do you teach that?
How do you teach that? That's a good question. So I share that the mystical experience was an opportunity for me to give them something that would possibly, if they allowed it to transform their own lives, and that this gift that I was given was not for me to keep within myself and hold within me, but to share, so that others can have hope. Others can realize that they're more than a human being, and to give that hope and to give the tools for others to transform their lives. That's what I shared with them, and they generally appreciate that. It's a little scary sometimes, though, when you take off the hat that you used to wear, or you step off the stage of life and you go and sit in the audience and you just sit there and observe your life, and you see, I've been wearing this hat for a while. Maybe I want to change hats. Well, most of the people on the stage want you to stay in the same role. They don't want you to change roles. They're threatened by you when you change roles. But when you change roles, oftentimes people pull out their weapons of intimidation. and they fire those weapons at them to try to get them to go back into the boat or onto the stage and play that role that was beneficial for all those other people. And so those are the things that I share with people so that they can know that even though they may not have had these mystical experiences or been given these gifts, they all have gifts. And they're just waiting for them to recognize those gifts. If they haven't recognized them already, they're right there waiting for them. And these gifts are miraculous. Their gifts are miraculous in its own way. They may not be as obvious as my gifts, but they all have a gift, or they all have gifts. They have something to share that will create that inner happiness and joy, that create that peace, that feeling of belonging to their self first, because we can't belong to anyone else unless we can belong to ourselves first.
So when you started in the other church, you had been Catholic, and then you started attending a different church. It sounds like it was a different type of Christian faith.
It was fundamental. Yeah, it was a fundamentalist faith.
So how did that reconcile with your ability to do readings, like the fundamental? What I run up against in what Marina and I do is sometimes that some people believe that what we do is touching with stuff that you shouldn't touch with. The psyche, the deep-seated stuff, all of that, we're just supposed to leave it to God, right? We're supposed to leave it to God to heal us, which is true. It is up to God. God will heal us. And so I know in my faith, and I'm solid. I am solid in my faith, and I know that for me, being able to help people makes me stronger in my faith, makes me stronger in my knowledge that it's not me, it's God through me. But that's a hard sell for some people. For some people, it's a very difficult.
A very hard one, yes. Yes, and the church that I went to allowed people to be given messages through the Holy Spirit. And so I gave messages in the church because it would come to me. The messages would come to me, and I give the messages in the church, and they approved. So I found a way to fit in, or God found a way for me to fit in there. And I didn't go for a really long time because it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't reconciling with my experiences that I'd been given. And I went back to the Catholic Church, actually. And, all of that happened actually when my children were younger. And they were younger, and I hadn't yet gone to massage school. And I was working, but I hadn't gone to massage school yet. I hadn't gone actually to college yet. And I had started college, but then I had kids and I put it on the side for a while. So actually they were baptized in the Catholic Church, and, I'm still basically a Catholic. I can say that, and, what was I going to say? Just that I found that wherever I go, if I bring myself there and it's accepted, then that's great, a great gift to me. If it's not accepted, I honor that in that particular environment and in life, and not just in a church, but in anything in life and any organizations or functions. I choose to respect and honor their teachings, but I step away because I know within myself what works for me, and that I have to follow that or I don't have peace inside. Don't have peace. So my journey continued, and I went to school, and as I said earlier, I went to school and became a medical records technician, and just hated it. And it was very lonely because there weren't too many people there that I could connect with. So I went to massage school and graduated and started my massage business and my Reiki business. It was all kind of around the same time, around the massage and Reiki was all around 1995. So before 1995, I had another spiritual experience. And this spiritual experience was similar to the first one, but different as well. In this spiritual experience, I was actually sitting and reading a metaphysical book. I was sitting in my rocking chair in my front room, and I was reading this book, and it said something I'd never heard before. It said, "You are a powerful spiritual being of light." And I went, wow. And it affected me, and my consciousness shifted at that moment. And then I saw, and my eyes were open. I could see through this, but I had, I guess you could call it an apparition or something. This hand, white light hand, came out of a tunnel, a swirling white tunnel, and said, what I heard, would you like to come? And of course I said yes, because I was used to the other experience being okay. And I felt my consciousness had shifted into another place. So the next thing I know, I'm sitting in the chair, I grab the hand, and I'm flying through this swirling white light tunnel. And we hear about people that have near-death experiences or death experiences, and they come back. They usually say they go through a tunnel, but I didn't have to die or almost die in order to go through this tunnel. So I went through this tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, as soon as I came out, there was pure stillness, just pure stillness and light. And so much love enveloped that space that I was in, that it was as when I was a child, but even more so. And it was this huge space. It looked like infinity because I couldn't see the edges of it, but it was all light. And these three beings were standing before me. And the being in the middle talked to me without moving the lips. And the eyes of that being were like eternity. I mean, I could have just fallen into those beautiful eyes. And every time I talk about it, it touches me so deeply. And this being was sharing information with me about myself and about love and about my value and my worthiness. And it was just so amazing that I forgot about my worldly life. Everything was gone. It had gone away. The other two beings were just standing there beside this being in the middle who was talking to me telepathically. And the love, I felt like it was family. I felt like this is my family, you know? And so then they said, we're going to go to the halls of all knowledge. And the next thing I know, I was flying through what looked like a hall, and there were, I don't know if they were books. I didn't see books, but it was some kind of records that had knowledge of all that is in them. And I flew through there, and they said, things are going to get downloaded into you, and you won't remember them, but when you need them, they're going to come up. And so, of course, I was just going along with it because I was so caught up in the love that I knew that I was safe and I could do this. So then all of a sudden I was standing in that huge vastness of light, and the three beings were there, and the being said, you have to go back. And when the being said, you have to go back, I went, oh no, I can't go back. And the being said to me telepathically, you have to go back because you have things you still have to do yet. But when the time is right, these things that are in you, the things that we've talked to you about and told you, are going to start coming back to you. And when it's time for you to know these things and it's time for you to use these things, then they'll come back to you, and it'll be for you to use. So it did happen to me that I started having experiences of knowledge and information just appearing in my consciousness. And I made a journal. I wrote, I'd wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. I would be awakened, and I'd go, okay, I'm going to have my cup of coffee. Then I'm sitting down and I'm going to write in my journal, and begin to write. And truthfully, I don't understand much of anything I wrote, but I know on another level, I do understand it. I do. And so anyway, that's when I began to, I lived in Hawaii at the time. And well, I didn't live in Hawaii in 1992. That's when that happened. So it happened before I ended up going to massage school and before I ended up doing the Reiki and having these impressions come. And so it all kind of came together with, step by step of the journey that brought me to where I am today. And now I find it's a fantastic journey, because I find that people just naturally are drawn to me, and I'm not tooting my own horn or anything, but they're drawn to me. And I've had people say, oh, they come for a reading and they say, oh, all I needed to do was walk into the room that you're in and I'm fine. I don't even need a reading now, And of course they would stay, or a healing, and we'd do a healing or a reading. So I still do healings, and I still do the readings. And sometimes the readings become so deep that I feel I've gone into a trance of some kind, or shifted into another space, and these words come through me for that person. So I'll call it, just for a name, I'll call it channeling, that I'm bringing through information from some other being, and it's always positive, and it's always filled with light and love, and so I'm not afraid of it. In fact, I'm kind of stepped back and I'm listening to what's being said, and I'm going, I need that for myself. So I know it's not coming from me, or maybe it's coming from deep in my psyche, but there are things that I could really use for myself as well as help other people with. So I have people come for channelings as well. And so all of my workshops and all of the classes that I gave really were to bring hope to other people, that there's more than this life, that they are a spiritual being of love. We are in a human body, but we're not really this body. We're a spiritual being of love and peace and wisdom and power. And when people hear that, something shifts in them in different ways, depending on who they are and what they're ready to hear. But there's such a feeling of realness about those things. So when I talk to people, I say, I'm a human being. I'm a being human.
Isn't that the truth? And I see on your website, Patti, that you had a total of 8 spiritual experiences that you said led to your awakening. So tell us a little bit more about some other experiences.
Oh, sure. Yes. Well, one of them is that when I don't know if I put this in my bio, but I was in Hawaii and I was hiking on a path. I don't think I put this one in the bio, but I was hiking in Hawaii. And I loved hiking in Hawaii because it's so beautiful and the weather's almost always perfect. And I heard a voice in my mind that said, you're going to receive a gift. And I just was like, oh, because there was that shift again that happened. And I heard those words very clearly. They were very neutral. It was just, you're going to receive a gift. And about maybe 2 yards from that, I received this beautiful gift, which I'm going to bring up here.
I was looking at that.
Yes, it is a staff, and it was lying across the road, and you can tell that it's been
beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
And it has a place just to hold your hand, and put your hand up and hold the staff, and it's got little waves of crookedness and things like that, but it's perfect. It's perfect.
Absolutely beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? And so I named the staff Makana, because in Hawaiian, Makana means gift. And I'm going to put that down real quick here. I've had so many different things happen to me. You may have to remind me which ones I talked about.
Yes, you just said Yeah, you said it started at the age of 8, so maybe I read it wrong. That it started at 8. I read you at 8 experiences, but
yes, it
yes.
is 8. Yes,
Yeah.
the first spirit experience I had was the age of 8, when I was walking down the street and I was pulled up into the light, and I felt enveloped by love, and that's when my gifts were activated. And of course, they've been with me all along. And I'm trying to remember some of the other things that I brought up.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. I love that you are so clued into this, and the message of hope in all of this. We live in very interesting times today.
We do.
So
We do.
I feel that doing what we are doing, it's almost as if we are starting to do what Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world.
Yes.
But
Yes,
we're
I love
helping
that.
each one of our clients to become that, because we need that divine within us intervention in the world today, that message of love. So I am absolutely delighted to see that love in you. It's absolutely beautiful.
Well, the happiness that comes from within, because of that conscious connection with God, I traditionally say infinite spirit. Sometimes I say great spirit, like the Native Americans, but that connection, to me, it's everything, because that's where my gifts are coming from. I have one more that I remembered. I may have not put in the bio, but it's an interesting experience. My sister and my brother-in-law, we traveled to Mount Shasta, and there's a lot of stories about mystical experiences that people have in Mount Shasta. And so we drove up to a high place on the mountain where you could drive, and then there was this flat area, and there was a big rock, and there was a labyrinth made out of rocks as well. And my sister and I were all into the woo-woo about Mount Shasta, and my brother-in-law was just, oh, whatever, And so Cece my sister's name is Cece, and she goes, she's going to watch this, so she'll like that. Her name is Cece, and she says,
Cece,
oh,
you watch it?
Yeah. And her husband is Dick. Hi, Dick.
Hi, Dick.
And my sister asked Dick to take pictures of us standing in front of this big rock. So my sister and I stood side by side, and he got the camera ready, and he says, Patti, you're not in the picture. And I said, no, I'm standing right by Cece. I'm right here. And I didn't have an experience of going anywhere, but he couldn't see me. And I said, well, maybe it's the light. Maybe we need to move. So we moved where the light wasn't directly facing us. And he held up his camera and he said, I still can't see you. And I said, I'm standing right next to my sister, Cece. And Cece looked at me, and she could see me. She could see me. And she says, she's right here. And so in the pictures that he took, I'm not in the picture.
Wow.
And I know, I'm not in the pictures. It's just Cece standing by herself. So then we got pictures of him, and I took pictures of the two of them, and they were both in the pictures that I took. So another interesting thing happened during that experience. I had a gold chain with both, before my husband and I, that I have now, wonderful person. He, anyway, we had a sacred marriage before we had a legal marriage, years before we had a legal marriage. And so I had his wedding ring, which he never wore, a gold wedding band. And then I had my gold wedding band on a chain. And I'm not even sure, I don't even remember why I did that, but it was on the chain. And this sounds so unreal, but when that experience happened, I realized shortly after that, those rings were not on the chain. And I thought, oh my gosh, I lost those rings, right? And I knew that I'd had them on because I purposely put them on. I wanted the mountain to bless our rings. That's part of the woo-woo-ness of me too. So I wanted the mountain, and it's that sacred mountain to bless our rings. So they weren't on the chain. I didn't realize it right away, but we were leaving and going back to our little motel there to spend the night. And I didn't know where they'd gone. And I thought, well, I came to the awareness they must have been taken to another dimension to be blessed. So later on, this really freaked my husband out. And he's a very metaphysical person. He's a Reiki energy healer too. But we found them in my suitcase. They were in my suitcase and they were on my chain. And my sister and brother-in-law saw them and they were in my suitcase. So more magical happenings that to me tell us that we're so much more, than than a mere human being. And what I try to tell people, when I'm working with people, the main thing that I want to tell them, and I want them to begin to understand, is their beauty, their value, their goodness, that they matter, that no matter what's happened in their life, I don't share a lot, but I do, those who become very close to me, I share a little bit more about my past. And many, many other women and some men have had a similar past. So they're in need of great healing, And I don't share all of this with everybody because I don't want it to be about, well, wow, look what happened to you. I want it to be about, these gifts were given to me for a purpose, and I want to honor all human beings and animals with these gifts. We rescue cats. Right now we have 8 cats. We had 9, but when we turned over to the adoption center, but we rescue cats and get them adopted and get them fixed and get their shots and everything. And then we turn them over to the adoption place that works with us and we get them adopted. There are some that we couldn't get rid of, and so we have 8 cats.
So you just inject them with a lot of love and then let them go to their forever families. Yeah, it's quite interesting, Patti, because as you're talking, I've had quite a few mystical experience in my life as well. And even recently, I've had a very mystical healing happening to me. And it was just, that point where you come, where you just realize that, okay, but this just happened and it's almost impossible on a human level. And just I read so much about these things and the similarities between that and near-death experiences, which I know you've got. I just read the book by the woman. She's a Canadian professor. She was a medical doctor who had a few near-death experiences, and she actually recoined the I have to remember what it is, but it's all about, I think, transformational spiritual experiences, which include what you have been through, what I have been through, and near-death experiences, because at the end you get so much out of that.
Yes. It's wonderful to have mystical experiences. It really does. It gives us an awareness that is vaster than often we had before.
There's this nearness to God. There is this oneness with God that's within you, and to start to see the world through that, and deprived of any judgment and just pure love and acceptance. There's just some big, enormous shift that comes through all of this that I think we are so blessed. And then as you talk about the pains of your past, I look at mine very similar. And I mean, I don't know the details of yours, but mine was quite painful. But I look at that today and I'm like, I would not be who I am without it. So I look at it in absolute gratitude and in love. And every single day I could love those people and give them thanks for, they just played a role in sculpting who I am today. So I cannot be more grateful.
I feel the same way. It took me a while. But in my own healing process with counseling, with therapy and different kinds of therapy, and I had hypnosis, hypnotherapy as well, quite a few times in Hawaii, because I was dealing with it. It was all coming up. And I've experienced a lot of healing from that, and the recognition that they were not doing on purpose what they were doing. They weren't doing it on purpose, that they were in their own pain, and they were developed their own patterns of dealing with that pain, or of trying to say, hey, I'm here and I'm in a lot of pain and I need some help, you know. And all the people in my life gave me gifts.
Absolutely.
I find it interesting that a lot of us that work in this field of helping people work through past experiences, past trauma, childhood trauma, have come from trauma. And in order to be able to inspire and help and be a refuge for others, I think there's something so powerful in those childhood experiences. And I am not condoning anything. I am just saying God, in his miraculousness, can work miracles, things that have been super difficult for his children. And we're all in this together. Like we talk about the light, we talk about the sacred consciousness, the sacred dream weave. We're in this all together. And the only thing we really can do is to be a refuge for others when they need it. And whether that's through your work with people, or the way Marina and I do our work, there's so much beauty in that. And if people would just try it, right? Not hold back, not be afraid, just try it. And to find the beauty, the sacredness within how we can help them. I find, as you said it yourself, such a privilege. It is. It's a huge honor to be used in this way. We've all had different careers in the past, but this career that I'm in right now is a huge honor. It's a sacredness that I can't even explain, how we've been given that ability to connect.
Well, it's Joe Vitale that taught me that we come from pain, we come from being the victim, then we go through the healing, and once we get to the other side, we are in service.
Yes.
So that's what I really connect with. So well said, Fran.
One of the things that I've learned about forgiveness is that forgiveness doesn't mean that what they did wasn't wrong. It doesn't mean that we have no boundaries with them anymore. It just means that we have forgiven them, which heals us. Forgiveness heals us.
To me, it's restoring my oneness with God.
Yes, it's beautiful.
What a blessing. So, Patti, your Reiki sessions are obviously in person, correct?
They have been. I've had some. I have facilitated some distance sessions. I prefer in person if possible, because I use crystals and healing instruments. I have crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls, and that sacred sound is nice. It still comes over, with Zoom or the phone. It's just nice when they're right here. If they can't be right here, though, it's okay, because they're still going to get the same.
That goes for the readings as well? Do you prefer that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
No, actually, most of the readings that I do now are either on Zoom or on the phone. Yeah. So those who live in my vicinity are the ones who prefer to come in person, of course. And generally, when I start with just listening to them, and in the conversation, I get the impressions that I share with them, and it helps them. And then I take them over to my healing table and lay them down and put some crystals around them and play music and use healing essential oils a little bit, and then facilitate the Reiki treatment healing for them. And that's how I do things, because I don't want them just to come in and plop down on the table, it's too quick. So usually Reiki sessions go for about an hour and a half, because the first half hour is more of the person talking, and I'm listening and getting some ideas that might be helpful to them and preparing them for the healing.
Amazing.
So
It's
Patti,
wonderful.
how would you do a reading if it's online, if it's a Zoom reading? What does that, what format do you use, or how does that, what's the program in that?
Well, the program in that is that people come and sit down, and we spend a few minutes chatting, and then they open to, they know why that they're coming to me for either a healing or a reading, and healing, or just a reading. And we get into conversation. They share their story with me. They share what they're going through. And it's a conversational thing. And my impressions come through the conversation. They sometimes come without conversation, especially when I'm facilitating a Reiki treatment. But with the conversation, my impressions come that I share with them, and they call it a reading, or we call it a reading. But it's very relaxed and very conversational. So when I don't use any tools like cards or anything like that, it's just, I don't need to.
Your intuition.
Because the impressions come. Yeah, the impressions come. It's a different form that way, because they're getting it through imagery. They're getting information for people. And I tried that years ago, but it was like, this takes too long. I'd rather just be in that moment and let the impressions come.
So is there any way that you prepare yourself, quiet yourself down before a session like that?
I do. I meditate, and I breathe, and I do something that I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's eye movements that help bring the vagal nerve into balance. Yeah. And when the vagal nerve is in balance, you may know about this, when the vagal nerve is in balance, anxiety just dissolves and you're in the right space. So I do that, eye movements for that, and I do humming as well for bringing that together. And it's really helpful. And meditation is a big thing for me. And I forgot to mention too, I'll mention now that I always start all sessions with meditation with my clients. The people that come to me, we focus on our breath, we follow our breath inward, we find that place of stillness within ourselves, and then we connect in our hearts. And that's how we start. And at the end, we have gratitude for infinite spirit and any angels and guides that have been with us.
So one last message of hope for our viewers.
The message of hope would be, no matter what you've been through, you're not alone. You're being looked after, you're being loved. And even if you don't have mystical experiences, hopefully my story will help you to understand that this is real, that you are a powerful spiritual being of love, and that you have gifts to offer to the world in your own way, and that there's always hope, even in the darkest night of the soul. There, you are the light at the end of the tunnel. You are the light.
Beautiful.
And it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
That's a big one. So how do we get a hold of you? How do our viewers get a hold of you? What's the best way?
The best way is through my website, and that is sacreddreamweave.com, Sacred Dream Weave. And because I help people to weave their dreams into their life as well. We didn't talk about that too much, but basically we did in a different way. So sacreddreamweave.com. And the other way they can get a hold of me is through my email, which is Patti, P-A-T-T-I, and then dot, as in a period, and the word dreamweave@gmail.com. They can also call me if they like at 559-430-9291. And they can text me. Some people are not wanting to talk by phone, but they will text me, and we'll be able to, I'll get back to them, and we'll talk about it.
Well,
Amazing.
Patti, yeah, Patti, it's been wonderful. I mean, it's so inspiring to hear your story and to hear your journey. I mean, everyone's journey is different, but it's so
Yes.
inspiring. It's like everybody has got a different story. Everybody's got a different journey. And just because we haven't seen this brilliant light and a tunnel and all of that, I mean, it's wonderful that you have had that experience, but everyone is capable. Everyone is capable of feeling that light, whether it's through that mystic experience or whether it's through healings or whether it's through other people or nature or just their own way of worship.
Even prayer.
Yeah, we're all capable of it. And that's
Yes.
what God wants for us.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Patti. It was absolutely beautiful to have you here with us, to hear your story, to get inspired by you, to get hope from you. So thank you for sharing with us today. We will connect all the links that people can get hold of
Okay, and
to this broadcast. So thank you for being here.
oh, I feel so much gratitude for the two of you, for Fran and for Marina. So beautiful to connect with you and to be in your sacred space with you too.
Thank you, Patti.
Thank you.
And if you enjoyed our show today, please subscribe. The button is below, and we would love to have you here every week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.